Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, yes, the doctor is in. Welcome to USA Global TV, home of Talking Heads, and welcome to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm so excited to be here with you today for our show presenting Pet Psychic Aminah. Welcome, my friends. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I love the intro. Wow, that was amazing. He did. I just loved it. I loved it. A little bit of change and a little bit up. Was wonderful.
Yes, that's my friend Alcini. So that's
right. That's right.
His voice, and he did our voiceover. So thank you, Al, and thank you to Roar Media Creative and Brand Clever for the branding. Appreciate it.
No, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And you asked me earlier, what we're going to talk about today, and I really want to talk about being thankful. And we have so much to be thankful. I think we all spend too much time on what we're missing and what we're not able to do, and not go outside, and not this and not that and not that. You can go outside, I promise. I take hikes all the time, but you and I know what that means. Missing that social interaction, where these types of things that you and I are doing and what you're bringing to the table with all your guests is, I feel connected. I feel connected by what they're talking about. I've only seen pictures of Ed Cini, but I love his voice, because that's why he should be doing what he's doing for you. Is it's got the voice and the topics that we're going to talk about. But there are a lot of things going on, and I want to bring you guys up to. I'm working on a really heart-wrenching project, and it's about, and what I've really talked to the pet owners that I'm in the process of putting together an interview of a young couple who adopted. I don't think it's their first puppy, but it might be. And within less than 5 days, that puppy died.
Oh.
And so we're not going after the breeders. It's not going to be a hate speech. I don't do that. But it's a learning thing about why I feel so strongly about not using breeders. And especially, every dog has a use. Every animal has a reason to be here, regardless if somebody was forced to give birth to it or not. But this couple right now is going through the grieving process. So we're just working on it. We've all agreed to do this because we want to bring the reality of, because the breeders didn't stand by the puppy. The puppy was supposedly healthy, and they certified it, and then puppy dies within weeks, not even 4 or 5 days. And we have pictures of just how thin he got and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of bad breeders out there, and where can we find the difference? And this couple wants that healing. And for me, it's about telling their stories. It's about telling their story and not grandizing it, not anything, but saying, please be careful out there. This is one example, just one example of how badly it can go. My daughter also got a purebred, and it's because she's a therapist, and she needed a very, very specific kind of dog for no dander. So, but she's also had a myriad of medical problems with this purebred. He chews on his feet all the time because he has allergies. Believe it or not, she has a dog with allergies. So
I just want to clarify for our audience. So in this specific example, there's a couple who went to a breeder, purchased a puppy, and within 5 days, the puppy died. And so
yes.
The thought process is that the breeder didn't give the puppy the right treatment, or feed the puppy the right way, or inoculate, or whatever.
It was, and it could be mom. You and I as women know that how we treat our bodies and is how our skin behaves, how our hair behaves, how our nails behave. Can you imagine growing another person and that type of stuff. So if you're not well, how do you have a child that comes out well? Well, luck. No, most people, will get all the right nutrition if they can and that type of stuff. The same with animals. They're the same thing. It has to be mom and dad have to be healthy because you can genetically get things from dad. But mom specifically, since she's carrying, has to be healthy. And being that the breeders would not stand by the puppy as far as the puppy died within a few weeks, not a few months. This puppy died within weeks, and they've got pictures to show how they couldn't keep any. I mean, it was skin and bones. He literally withered away and then died. So they didn't stand by the purchase. They didn't get papers. There's a lot of steps that I want to go through and say, I have no problem with purebreds. They have their place. They have their place. Mutts are fabulous too. They have their place. But let's talk about purebreds for a while and why people need them or want them. And then how do you get one correctly? How do you get a puppy? Because people do have allergies, and I want them to have pets, or I want them to have, the things. But I'm going to always be first pro shelters. Absolutely. Because we have too many animals on the planet and not enough people to take them, because we're still not spaying, neutering everybody.
So if someone wants to purchase a dog, they can go to a breeder. They can go to a shelter. Is there a fee usually associated with that if they go to a shelter?
Well, yeah, that's part of how they make their money, to feed the animals, besides these wonderful people who are rich enough to donate to the shelters. And if it's a city shelter and that type of stuff, then the cities and the counties support those, because we have a county shelter and a city shelter, and they get support through that venue, that avenue, sorry. So you need to look at what you're getting. And I say, go to all of them. And what I did with my, one of my daughters, she came to Los Angeles. I was there at the time living, and she came down there, and she looked up when they were having adoption fairs, because they reduced the adoption fee. And they still cover all the shots. They still cover spayed and neutering and all that type of stuff. And we picked a kitty that was very ill. It would have been picked up as a stray, but it's very little. So he didn't get the nutrition he needed. And he had a lot of medical issues. So they gave us a clean bill of health, but he also was too small, as far as too thin and too small, to get neutered. It wasn't something, even though it was a boy, it's a far less snip experience. They gave her a coupon when she moved back to Northern California, and she went to any vet and got him spayed when he was of weight that was safe. But do you see the chain, the responsibility of saying, I take responsibility that this animal's going to get a fair thing. So that's why I'm so pro shelter. There's a whole plethora of check and balance. What are they doing? Where are they going? Who's there? And if there's a problem, come check with us and that type of stuff. So she she came down to Southern California and found out they were having this all the shelters having a deal on adoption fees. And so she came down to my side, and in lots of neighborhoods, lots of cities, towns all over the world, much less all over the country in the United States, they have these all the time, especially as we come up to spring. Then we've got a plethora of babies, just a plethora of babies hitting the ground.
So when someone is looking to bring a new family member in to pet, and they go to a shelter, they go to a breeder, can you walk us through both of those scenarios? What should they be looking for? We'll start with the breeder.
Yeah, let's start with the breeder. Again, you want to look at their credentials. Is this a backyard breeder and they're just doing it because they can make money? Then you should assume, unless they can prove otherwise, and I mean prove, you have current medical documentation, you can call their vet. They should be totally fine with you calling their vet and vetting the vet. I've never used that one before. And making sure that this is something true. Use your instincts also. And if it sounds shady, move on. I don't care how much you fell in love with the pup. You could be setting yourself up for crisis. This family is going through just a huge crisis. And luckily their child is so small that they don't have, the memories will go and the trauma will go. But the mom and dad won't. That won't go away, and it scares them to do anything after or before that. And they were raised with pets, so it's not like they're new at this. But this really took them by surprise. But when the breeder doesn't provide a guarantee insurance, a paper that says anything wrong with this puppy in the next 6 months, please bring him back, blah, blah, blah.
So
No,
that's pretty standard. I know when I got all three of my dogs,
Thank you.
I got papers for
Yeah.
each of them. So tell me more about that. What should the papers have?
Well, you should have a guarantee and a reasonable one, because what happens if you feed them something and poison, the dog, and you don't know that? So there's a reasonable amount of stuff. They should have certified by a veterinarian that they're healthy. That means they got a full workup. The mom should have papers on having a full workup. Dad, not so much. It would be great. You should know both parentage. If you're buying a purebred specifically, you should know mama and dad. If they don't, then it's accidental breeding or whatever. But you should know those types of things. How long have they owned them? Are they doing this as a business? Because it does change. I'm not saying breeders who make a business of it are wrong, but they're focused possibly 50-50 or 60-40 on the money. And it's a business for them. So it needs to create money. Why did the pet stores, and as far as I know, the whole United States is this way, are no longer allowed to keep live animals in the pet stores? Do you remember when we were growing up, we go by the thing, oh, puppies, oh, kitties. Yeah. I spent more time in the pet store by my house than anywhere. Nobody cared, because in those days I could walk around the desert. Nobody cared. I grew up in the high desert. So I would just look at all the kitties and the fish and all the things I couldn't have and that type of stuff. They can't do that anymore because it became a market. Literally, it's like the dollar store. And we all know if you're paying something for $1, if it lasts a month, great, I got my dollar's worth. If you're paying $6,000 for something and it dies in 3 days, you better have a warranty, like a television or a car or something. But if you cannot prove any of that, and what I don't do it often because I don't want to live in the negative, but I will post articles and pictures on my page on Facebook specifically that talk about what does those animals look like when they go through. And you can see the markets, and the cage is like this big and they've got 50 birds in there. Well, that's, first of all, not sanitary. So they get diseases from each other. And let's say they get to the pet store and your puppy's been with 50 other dogs or whatever from 50 other mothers. And then they get kennel cough 5 days later. Well, if you've never heard kennel cough, it's like the worst smoker sound that I could imagine. The hacking and just trying to breathe and that type of stuff, and the medical that goes with it. So again, know what you're getting yourself into. If you went down to buy a car, would you just go over and say, that's pretty, I'll take that? And there's what, $100,000, $50,000 to $100,000 that you just pulled out a loan, or I don't know, you have cash. And it's like, would you do that? Well, think like to like. So if the dog is $2,000, it's the same as buying a $50,000 car. And you're hoping to have it 10, 15 plus years, still running, maybe a few doctor's appointments at the end, mechanics appointment. Look at what you're doing and what you're spending. Your heart's involved. And I don't know about you, but when I bought my first car, my heart was involved in that too. I was so excited when I signed my first loan and all that kind of stuff. You're the same with getting a life. You need to know where you're going and what you're doing. Can you know ahead of time? They better have a recent vet check. That's how you're going to say, because that's something to come back on the breeders and the vet and say, wait a minute, he got kennel cough. Well, where's he been? Has he been boarded? Has he been somebody around? But the vets will, again, reasonably say, this dog should be healthy for so much time. Because of course you take them into another family and they got a dog or they got a whatever. Eventually somebody's going to get sick, but not die, hopefully, because unless your own animals and you have another animal is already ill and already having issues that you don't know about, everything's possible. But again, buyer beware. Buyer beware.
So I think you give a lot of really good tips there. I want to move into when you go to a shelter, what to look for, what to expect. But first, we're going to take a quick break. I've got a new song for you today.
Yay!
It's by Madeline Chan. We've watched her other videos. Here's a recent one from her, and then we'll be back with presenting pet psychic Aminah, and we'll talk about shelter safety.
Here I go, watch me now, I'm out of control. Here I go, watch me now, I'm out of control. Feel the sweet desire, let the music start to free your soul. Feel the step and fire moving up and down out of control. Feel the sweet desire, let the music start to free your soul. Feel the step and fire moving up and down and out of control. Feel the sweet desire, let the music start to free your soul. Feel the step and fire moving up and down out of control. Feel the sweet desire, let the music free your soul.
Well, there you have it. Jan, out of control. Welcome back to
Absolutely.
Home of Talking Heads, and also welcome to our listeners on Business Talk Radio. At our first segment, we were discussing a number of things. We just ended talking about what to look for, what to expect when you go to make a purchase of a pet from a breeder.
You can go to the groomer next.
And now we're going to talk about when you go to a shelter, what to expect. Aminah?
Absolutely. So the great thing about the shelter is you're getting a one-stop shop experience. You get to look at the ducks. Believe it or not, they do have ducks. They have bunnies. They have guinea pigs. They have rats. And they have cats and dogs and of every shape and color that are dire need of homes. So they do have kittens during kitten season and that type of stuff. So they do have babies. They have every age range you can possibly imagine. I love getting the seniors. The last, they had an adoption fair where a private shelter brought in like to Petco and pet store, and they have cages put up. So my daughter's like, let's go look. And I was like, no, that's dangerous. Don't go look. And of course, walked away with the cat. He was 11 when we adopted him. He lived until he was almost 14 with us and that type of stuff. And he had a very tragic history. He and his brother, he was orange tabby, and his brother was black. So that's kind of how I see him in my head. And the people were elderly. And of course, they died and didn't have a plan. And how many times have I said, please have a plan? I don't care what your age is, have a plan. If you have children, you would have had a plan, I hope, and not just where they're going to be. So there was no one to take the cat, but he was unsocialized because he was basically furniture. They walked around, they fed him and walked around, and the black one insisted on getting attention. So they paid attention to him. But by the time we got Tucker, of course, we changed his name. We wanted him to start over. And I don't remember what his original name was anymore. It was something really silly. And I stayed with the hard T, so that in his ear, his name was so similar. So I literally went through all the hard T names I could think. Tom, Dave, the dictionary is great to stick with that. But he was so shy. So it was a perfect example of coming to my house. I was gone most of the day and he could just relax. And then in weekends and nights I was home, and he got used to me little by little by little. And petting was new and being brushed was new. Oh my gosh, you're just seeing the nail clipping and that type of stuff. So getting a shelter cat or a dog or a hamster, whatever you get, is a learning curve. But how exciting to build that relationship brand new for both of you. And we got to that place where he loved when my daughter came and adopted her little kitty. So he was little kittens running around and Tucker's already there and that kind of stuff. So he had a whole new life up until, the past time he passed with me and that type of stuff. But I gave him those 4 or 5 years that he had love and he had attention. And again, I did it on his terms. So many people are so caught up on their own path that I'm the boss and I'm the, big guy. And I mean that generally, because we know enough women, you and I specifically, are very dominant in our lives. And we're okay with that because, we don't offend anybody, but we know what we know and we know what we want and we're willing to learn. That's why you do this, because there's so much to learn out there. But with an animal, like with a cat, they are single. They live alone. They do their own thing. It's not a pack animal. With a dog, I can treat it differently and they will accept me as alpha pretty much sooner than a cat because they don't have that. So just be aware at a shelter, you're going to get everything from an animal that you need to really spend some time, especially if you get the older ones, and you need to take that patience, but know that about yourself and know about getting an older animal. And the babies, of course, need to be adopted, but they're going to easily get adopted. So I suggest a older cat anywhere above a kitten and or a puppy, because those are easy. Those are easy to adopt, but they're a whole boatload, a lot of work because they don't know about the cat litter box, and cats have that instinctually, but they don't know, don't throw up here or claw the curtains or don't do the furniture. An older cat has a better opportunity to actually know those rules already. Do keep them in the home. Please, please, please keep them in the home. Dogs are different. They can be in yards and that type of stuff, but cats should really be in the home. There's just too many dangers with being driven over, being poisoned. I actually had a neighbor who their pet was poisoned because the neighbor didn't like them. And they couldn't prove it. So we're talking about the goods and the bads of all of this, like talking about, do you get a purebred animal? You can find those at the shelter. You really can. If that's really, really what you want to do. We got our German Shepherd. He was dumped in a backyard. Purebred. I found the breeder. She was livid. She was livid that this dog got dumped. He was tattooed, so I was able to look up the tattoo. And she was just so flabbergasted that you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 was how much this dog cost, and then just walk away and dump him in a yard.
So a question that I have about that, because people might be wondering, if you go to a shelter and you get an animal that has been abused, what do you do to make the animal feel loved and safe?
And that's a perfect perfect question. As always, your insight is spot on with someone's asking. The shelters are already going to have worked with these animals, and they're going to disclose it. There's no big highway secret that a breeder might keep and say, oh, well, it's the shyer one and it's the more aggressive one or more social. And that's great to know, but they're not going to have spent enough time to know if they have any trauma or if they have a proclivity to not like water or whatever. The shelter people will, because they're going to have volunteers and staff that spend every day cleaning, walking, socializing, petting, making sure they still get the needs met. That's why volunteering at the shelters is so vital. They always can use more hands. Always use more hands. They have guinea pigs. They have bunnies. The other day I was there a few months ago, and there was a chicken. And I was thinking, okay, now that's a new one on me. And I was like, I get the guinea pigs and all that, but the farm animals are coming in. And I've actually seen in a rural part of our county, there's enough room for donkeys and horses, and because they're in a more rural part. So they have people who give up these animals, and they do take care of them. But you got to know what you're getting in a donkey as opposed to a horse, and they will walk you through it. They're the experts. They're spending time with these animals, and they can say, okay, this one would be good with children. This one probably wouldn't be good with children. This one, blah, da, 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 da. Hamsters are great pets for somebody older. And why do I say that? Because the little ones tend to drop them. And the bunnies and the guinea pigs are great. But if you're going with somebody under 6 or 7 years of age, the possibility that they will drop them or not be able to handle them correctly, and they squirm away and get accidentally dropped. I don't saying somebody's going to actually throw them on the floor or anything. We've got broken legs. We've got broken spines and that kind of stuff. So know the age of your child, the capacity of your children to hold and that kind of stuff. Bunnies are really great, but maybe mom and dad need to pick them up and put them in their lap. And we would put towels on our laps and that kind of stuff, because bunnies tend to donate their pellets.
Bunny
little belly everywhere. It's just there's no
that's for sure.
And the urine is highly acidic. So that's why if you've got a wired cage, eventually it just burns right there. So you got to know these things so you know what you're adopting and what you're aging and who are you getting this animal for? Because parents, it's really you. It's really you, and your kids are going to help. There's my air quotes. Help with that as much as you can do that with them, and you need to watch it. I don't care if it's fish, a lizard, a puppy, or a guinea pig. Small children should not be expected to, and I mean anybody under 10. Every child has a different growth. But as parents, please be 50% as active with that animal as your child is, or 60-40 would be better.
So now you get the pet, and how often should you, let's go with the dog. How often should you wash the dog, number one? And should you take the dog to a groomer, or should you try to do the beauty routine yourself?
I would suggest that you go take a class and learn to do it yourself. There are some amazing classes out there. You go to Meet, and this is a great group where you can find a group for everything. But go to somewhere where you can learn to be a groomer. Now, a poodle is a whole different thing. You should be brushing your animals unless they have no fur. It's totally different. But this type of thing, know what you're getting, what is the maintenance, and if you don't have time or the proclivity for it, then stop doing it, and don't even adopt that breed. Maybe you can get a foster. I love the idea of fostering. We fostered a lot of animals, and especially the kittens during kitten season. We would bring the kittens home and that had no mommies, and they were just learning to get around and that type of stuff, or you can get the mommies with them. The worst one I had was they all had diarrhea. Five kittens. And they all had diarrhea. So I had that was a lot of work, and my room stunk and I kept them in my bedroom. So I had master bedroom, so I cleared the whole space out. It was a lot of work. But so important to help the shelters out with this. And then all those got terrific homes. So ask your question again. Make sure I answered it.
Yeah. So how often should you bathe your dog, and
Okay.
should you groom the dog yourself? And you mentioned about going and taking courses. I know I was taking my dogs, all three of them, to get them groomed, and it's very expensive. So then I started doing it myself, and they were not happy at all, because it's that razor thing, whatever, with
The shedding comb. Yeah, the shedding comb. Yeah.
not easy to use. It's painful if they have any tangles. So,
Yeah.
so what about the hygiene and the bathing?
Yeah, you need to, if your dog is going to run outdoors and you have them indoors, both ways, coming in and out, then you're going to need to either come up with a plan to wipe their paws when they come in, because they are going to bring it in. If you live in a barn, that's fine. Then it doesn't matter. But most of us don't. Most of us don't. The smaller dogs are really, really geared, unless you're going to get like a wiener dog or the little small compact dogs. But if you're going to get like your midsize and the Bichon Frises and all of that kinds of, they're built to be groomed. They're built to be groomed. My daughter has the white one, and he gets the yellow and the yellow feet and everything. So she's constantly putting things on his feet so he stops creating the yellow. But those are things that you're going to have to treat, unless then you've got the wrong dog if you're not going to. There's no schedule. I can't say you have to go every 6 weeks, every 10 weeks, because maybe your dog is outside and then he comes inside. Or you guys love to go for a walk. Well, you've picked up every leaf and mud and dirt because you went for a walk, or you love to hike. I would brush, if you have a mid-sized to bigger dog and you're going for a hike in the hills, then wipe his paws down or at least brush him. One of our houses we had stickers. And these, I forget the name of them now because I haven't talked about them in a long time. But these stickers are the type that once they get in the skin, they burrow into the skin, and they can go to the heart. It is so tragic because you'll never see it coming. But the dog will rub at it, scratch. So for my shepherds, dual coat, they have 2 coats. It's a constant brush. And then when I would pet them, it was constantly putting my hands through just so I can feel the point where they're starting to go in. And that was every single day. And it didn't matter how many times we cut the weeds down, how many times I manicured the back. We were on a big piece of property. And that was 1/3 of an acre. And so part was grass, just a little part. The rest was acreage with fruit trees. So these stupid stickers grew everywhere, every year. You have to check their coat because they will go to the heart and they will kill that dog if you let it go. It's that tragic. It will just burrow straight through, and grooming is so important. But guess what it also does is build your relationship. Just what you said. Yours didn't like it. They probably loved the way the groomer was doing it and didn't do the change. And you weren't the right person. You and I both know we're not built to do every job or all jobs and that type of stuff, right?
Here's what I'm going to share with you. I feel like the outcome from the grooming when I took them to a professional was much different than when I did. So when they did it, the dogs looked beautiful. I mean, they looked beautiful. When I did it, they looked like sorry work, very sad.
Well, I mean, remember when we were growing up and you could always tell the kid that got his hair cut from mom? Yeah, we all started that way with my mom. And then the ones that got somebody else that cut it, then mom, because the bangs went this way and the hair went this way. So just think about yourself, mom, and go, this might be above my pay grade. And that's part of adoption. Do you have the money for a groomer? This is expensive. It can be up to $100. If you've got a poodle, and a standard poodle is a big, tall thing and lots of hair and little fluffy tail, maybe, you need to have part of your go is food and grooming, taking for a walk, this type of stuff. Every pet is not for every person. Poodles are fabulous to being hypoallergenic. So it's great for people who have allergies to dander and that type of stuff. But are you going to also realize that you're going to spend more money on grooming, or own a gorilla, a bear dog or something? Because in the winter, that's one thing and all that. But these were bred to be groomed, just like your Pekingese, just like your whatever, skinless, hairless ones. Those really got popular, like guinea pigs, dogs, cats. They all come hairless now because so many people had dander issues. But what you better realize is that's not natural. So they need either lotion every day or oil every day or a bath every day with special lubricants on, because their skin will just go south in cracking. And oil, can you imagine if you walked around, I don't know, in Death Valley? I promise you, it's hot. It really is, and dry. And you had no fur to protect you, or you had no hair or no jet clothes for a human. You would be chapped and dry. So there's care for every single type of animal you get, regardless.
You mentioned that brings to mind something that might sound crazy, but I just thought about it. If you have a pet like that's hairless, what about sun damage?
Oh my gosh, they're wearing jackets and they're wearing sweaters and that kind of stuff because they don't have any protection, natural protection against the sun. And you can get that in really white dogs. And if they've got that pink nose where you feel that's got some albinism in them, and that type of stuff. So these are what you have to know. And if the breeder doesn't, then they, first of all, shouldn't be breeding, and accidents happen. But it's so easy now, as my kids say, Google it. This is not have to go to the library and read the dictionary with 700 pages on dogs. You need to know what you have so that you understand before you adopt. What are you getting yourself into? What's great about the shelters also is they're highly informed. They're going to be able to say, oh, Janet has been taking care of this specific kitty and cleaning the cage every day and all this kind of, she can really tell you what it's been like for her or him in the cage and that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and I'll have to tell you a really fun, if we're not in the middle of a commercial, but because otherwise we'll come back and I'll just lead into it, that my daughters and I went to adopt a bunny at the shelter, and another animal came home with us. And I have a great story because he yelled at me to take him home. So
we will come back in on that one then.
Yes, Stanley's story.
All right, I look forward to it. All right, we're going to watch another music video, and this is one that we just premiered last week right here for the first time ever, and it's Tony Moore, Never Say Goodbye. Let's take a look, and then we'll be back with Pet Psychic Aminah. And we're back. I don't know who's producing this show. That was Tony Moore, Never Gonna Say Goodbye. And
I love that song.
He's here to perform, just share the performance with us. It's beautiful. So,
absolutely.
All right, so we're welcoming you back to USA Global TV and the home of Talking Heads, and also to Business Talk Radio. Our show today is presenting Pet Psychic Aminah. She is here with me every Friday, and she has a special offer for everyone watching the show. What's that offer, Aminah?
So it costs $75 to talk to me for up to 1 hour, and then it's $1 a minute. And for your audience only, I am doing a $50 sale January 15th. So it is for the holiday season, and please come and I can help you with training. What's the conversation? Is it time to say goodbye? Is it time to adopt? All of those wonderful questions. Those are the things I can get to. I get a lot of people who adopt and then want to know their past, the animal's past. Mm-hmm. And just a fair warning, animals have the right, just like you do, to answer those questions. But if they don't feel that they help you, and or if they don't know, an animal can animals let go of things. People not so much.
So brain size is very different depending on if it's
and their desire to know or care what happened in the past. We're for some reason, very caught up in what happened in the past and wanting to quantify. Some things they'll talk about, some things they won't. When you build a relationship of trust, it might come out later. But I don't have any tricks to poke them and say, no, tell me. And I had one pet tell me later because it wasn't good for her to hear. And what had happened, and this, everything's different. I don't want to give anybody the heebie-jeebies, but what the pet said is, because I said, why are you refusing? And he said, because I was killed. I didn't run away. So she was in foster care and they didn't want the dog and they had it shot. So that doesn't do her any good at 35. This happened to her when she was 12. What are you going to do with that information? And so the dog made that choice and said, no, it's okay if you know, because he could trust that I wasn't going to pass that on, because that was, but I learned, and that was what it was about, that I learned that there is a reason why you don't know, because it's not good for you. And it could be, I just don't like you and you can't help it. But, because we all have bad days, good days, mental illness, bad days, good days, mental illness, whatever that is. And we're not the right fit. I rehoused an animal because I wasn't a good fit. I adopted at the wrong time. So I've lived the things I teach. It's not just I'm coming up with it. I've actually been a regular person making regular mistakes and going, that was a bad decision for the animal's sake more than mine, and that type of stuff. So just so you know, I do take from my own life and say, no, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's just not how life works.
And thanks for your transparency about learning from your own.
Yeah.
I know I had a big learning, which was I took all three of my dogs to the doctor, and one of them, my little Eiffel, she had something on her face, and and they asked me about it, and I said, I don't know. Well, they cut it off, and it turns out it was cancer. And
I remember you told me that. And again, they're thinking, oh, it's benign, it's no big deal. But wait a minute, you're not a vet. And their heart was in the right place, or their professional, we want the dog to go home clean. But when you open cancer, it's a spread. It's like a contagious disease on steroids. Right. And I'm so sorry, because I think you lost puppy to cancer, right?
Yes. So I had 3 dogs, and I lost them all to cancer. So we had talked about that, about food choices as well. That was another program. Right. So you were going to share a story with us before we close out today.
Yeah, Stanley's story. My kids love this. It's just, again, my life has been a trajectory of the weird, strange, and okay, now what? And again, I wasn't doing anything pet psychic. I've been born this way. I've been having weird things happen my whole life. So we went to adopt a new bunny, I think. Who cares? An animal. And so we were at the shelters. And so when you walked into this place, there were cages on either side of us. So imagine you're in your kitchen and the dining room table's not there. So you walk in and there's cages all around us, and there were cats all around us, and a couple of bunnies were in some of the cages, and they're very compatible. So it doesn't matter. They're not like they're playing each other. So my girls are looking at this cage and deciding if they want to hold that one or look at that one, by how they react coming up to the cage or not, and that kind of stuff. And of course, who looks pretty and cute. I mean, these girls are like elementary school, so they're pretty small. And so I keep turning around, and so the lady comes in and will say, yes, we'd like to adopt this cat. And because the girls had already held it and put it back and all that type of stuff. So I said, when the lady came in and said, oh, so you want me to get paperwork on this cat? And I said, oh yeah, and can we have the guinea pig behind us? And my girls are dead silent. They're like, why are we getting a guinea pig? We didn't come for a guinea pig, but don't ask, because we want a guinea pig, and that kind of stuff. It would have been there first. And so he's a tricolor, brown, black, white, guinea pig. So we get out the door because they know I'm pretty weird already. even by that young age. And so we get out the door and the girls are like, how come we got a guinea pig? That's so cool. I said, he would not shut up. Take me home, please take me home. Get me. He was in a cage with a rabbit and he's like, please take me home. This guinea pig never shut up. And I was like, oh God, I guess I'm supposed to take him home. And he was so funny his whole time with us. So the cage was in our family room where the girls had a TV. And so every time we got really, really tense, I probably told you the story early on. And, you know, you get the climax of the movie and dun, 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 or whatever is going on. And so we're all sitting there waiting for it. And Stanley would go, at the top of his lungs. And we're like, shut up, Stanley. We couldn't hear him. Good, luckily, we were in a house we could raise the sound. But he hated the tension in the room. So he was a character from beginning to end of our lives. And just so you know, when you go to the shelter, you might take home a guinea pig. And that could be metaphorical. But you just let that animal find you as much as you find them. Because it truly is. Guinea pigs? About 10 years, give or take.
Okay. It's a long time.
Yeah, it is. That's why you got to make a decision here.
What are some pets that people can get for their children that are more, what's the word, kid friendly?
A lot of people say bunnies, but I wouldn't because they jump, and you've got the dwarfs even are jumpy. So I would go with anything from rats are highly intelligent. So a child who really wants somebody that they can train, that's a really good one. The smaller dogs, of course, but be careful. Smaller dogs and chihuahuas, children, no. Mid-size are great. And honestly, the best one for people is the big ones because they know they can sit on you and you can't move. Have you ever seen a bull mastiff or any of these giant dogs? They're just looking at you and they're going to lick you to death. I promise they're going to lick you to death if they've been raised right and bred right and that type of stuff. But that's not for everybody. You can't get a 90-pound dog or a 120-pound dog and expect to not think you just adopted a horse. So know your space, know your capacity for training or getting a trainer and following through. Even if you get a trainer, I highly recommend, but are you going to follow through with what the trainer said to do? Meaning don't get on the counters, especially like cats. Have you seen where their feet are in the cat box? Come on, you're going to eat that. It's somewhere. And cats on counters, and there's a lot of tricks we can go into on another show on getting them off counters. Go with your personality, your lifestyle. Huge, your lifestyle. Are you home or are you not home? Cats don't care if you're home all day. If they're animals in a cage, that's fine. But do you take them out? Do you spend time with your caged animals? Okay. If you have a bird, you better plan the next 40 years of your life. Regardless if you get the little parakeet that's 15 all the way to the peregrine falcon, which you shouldn't have. But you know what I mean? A bigger bird, they're going to be with you for a very long time, and you better have them in your will if something happens. You know what you are adopting. Please understand and spend time with one if you can in the shelters. Take them for a walk. Sign up to be a volunteer. You'll learn so much you'll learn about by volunteering with animals.
I love it. Great direction. Last question I have for you is for Christmas, for Hanukkah, for Kwanzaa, for all of the holidays coming up, just a quick recap about whether or not it's great to buy a pet as a gift for someone else.
Never.
Okay. So that's
you could donate money for a fund. Say, talk to the parents or if the parents are getting it and say, you know what, I'd love to support, especially somebody like you and I who are very, very pro animal and know how much love they've given to us in our lives. Let's say, you know, that they're really looking to adopt, and then say, you know what, I thought this would be the best thing for me to use, especially somebody like me, and say, I'd love to donate 20, 30, 40, whatever your bank account, and said, this is for the pet fund. And this is for where you're going, and just support that time that they're taking to do the research and not to get it at the holidays, or maybe they started 6 months ago and did the research so they could get one at the holidays. That's fine. But remember, My client's son is not the only person that adopted and the puppy died. And this family is going through horrific grief. The married couple are young, and they have had pets all their lives in their own families with their mom and their dad. So they're not new pet owners. And so, again, we're going to put together a talk and talk about what happened and that kind of stuff. But it's not about blaming the breeder. It's about information. It's about, how do you choose a breeder? What would they do differently? And we want to learn from something, and they're willing to share their story, which I honor them for.
Absolutely. Maybe you want to bring them on this show too.
Absolutely. After we film, get the film. Right now, we're just trying to get through the holidays. And again, puppy only died 10 days ago.
Okay.
So, just some time, but it's already been agreed upon, because I know their mother, the son's mother, and said, I'd really like to do this, but let me be really clear. This isn't a hate thing. This is these are the evil people. No, breeders have a point. But we need to call people on the table that aren't standing by the pets that they're creating.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to hearing the outcome and finding out where you can watch this, and then also welcoming them on the program.
Absolutely. I'd love to have them. I think you'll really enjoy them. What little I've spoken to them, they're just eloquent, and it'll resonate with people who have lost. Whatever your reason for loss, you and I have lost.
Yes.
Pets. And we talk about that grief process, and I want you to feel it. And that's why we're waiting. I want them to go through the process, and then we save somebody else's life with their dog or cat.
Yes. Thank you as always, Aminah. Great information.
Absolutely.
Your contact information is in the comments, along with the fabulous offer. So let's just review the offer again. A special reminder for everyone on USA Global TV or Business Talk Radio. Aminah is offering you a discount of $25. So she will charge you $50 to make an appointment with her. And you can do so by going to her website, which is bridgingworld.us. And that's only for people watching this show.
And make sure you tell me, because I get asked to do readings all the time. So you got to tell me I'm coming from USA Global, all that. USA Global TV. And love to help you, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much, Aminah. It's great seeing you.
See you Friday.
Yeah, see you Friday. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. It's been a wonderful day of broadcasting. And again, happy Thanksgiving to everyone who celebrates. And may I just suggest that we give thanks every day for things that we take for granted, things that we have, just waking up, just putting our feet on the ground, just having a roof over our head, whatever the case may be. There's always something to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for you, for all of you out there who have been loyal and watching our shows, whether you watch on the live, you watch on the replay, any of the 16 channels that we stream to, whether you're listening or watching. Thank you so much. We look forward to coming back next week with another wonderful week of programming. If you would like to be a guest, please go to drjacalyn.com. You see my name spelled there, drjacalyn.com, and go to book your session on one of our weekly shows. We have between 15 and 20 live broadcasts every week. Also, if you want to watch any of our shows, you can go to any of the 16 platforms, but that gets to be cumbersome, doesn't it? So just go over to YouTube and go to USA Global TV. Click subscribe so that you can watch all of our shows and be informed about when we go live. All right, I'm going to end our program today with a wonderful clip from Ian Pelham Turner and Helena Shard. They have shared this with us. It's called the Earthshot Prize, and I think it really is relatable to everyone wherever you are in the world. Thank you again for watching. God bless you, and see you next week.
Ours is a world of wonder. Every day it reminds us of its beauty. It touches us, teaches us, and astounds us. But it also warns us. that what we throw away does not go away. That higher temperatures mean a lot more than longer summers. That we can no longer take life as we know it for granted.
We are at a unique stage in our history. Never before have we had such an awareness of what we are doing to the planet. And never before have we had the power to do something about that.
We faced a series became a reality. And along the way, united the world